Welcome to Awakening Souls,
a spiritual podcast for the mystics, magical thinkers, sensitives, and spiritual seekers.
We are here to explore all things spiritual, from navigating your awakening, developing your psychic gifts, and so much more.
Together, with our combined experiences, we hope to help guide you on your path to reconnecting with your soul and the beautiful life that comes after.
So come join us on the magical journey of exploring your
Awakening Souls.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Awakening Souls. We're joined here today by Rose, Candace, Jennifer, and myself. And today we are talking about clairsentience and clairempathy, two things that we talk about quite often because they're big key players in not only our lives, but in the lives of a lot of you guys that we work with.
Okay, I think it's really funny how we were talking about clairsentience today because I think I've always known that I've had it, but I really didn't have a name for it. And I know I've heard it before and I know I've looked it up before, but it just didn't register. And last night I was sitting, my mother-in-law came over and I was sitting at the table and I was just about to tell her a story. And all of a sudden, my heart started doing this flippity flop thing in my chest. And it does that from occasion. I have mitral valve prolapse. So it does that on occasion. And it wouldn't stop. It kept doing this flippity flop fluttering thing. And I just started doing one of these things. And I'm like, okay, this is strange. And I looked at my husband and I'm like, my heart just won't stop doing this thing. And my mother-in-law looks at me. She goes, oh, that's why I'm wearing this. And she has a heart monitor on. And it's because they want to look at her heart and figure out what's going on, that she's been having these falls lately, but she says she's having these flutters that are happening and they want to figure out why. And as soon as I heard that and I got up and moved, it stopped. It went away. And I'm wondering, is that clairsentience?
Absolutely.
I think some of those, and that's been coming up a lot since we mentioned we were going to do this. A lot of this is happening and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, this is clairsentience.
I think that we should be transparent, at least for me, that every time we come up with a topic that we pick from that jar to discuss, it's like my life suddenly changes and shifts and I'm learning all about that topic from a new perspective and in a new way and from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
And
I should be used to this by now, but this is so weird because this happens every time we pick a subject.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about that earlier today. I was like, shoot, I didn't think I had clairsentience really as a very strong ability, but we did a lot of work this last weekend with Sanctuary and everything I did started with clairsentience first. Even the classes that we taught was about tuning into your clairsentience first.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go any further, why don't we define what clairsentience is?
Clairsentience, the ability to perceive emotional or psychic energy without the use of the standard five senses.
That's a good definition.
That's a basic. Yeah. Anyone else got anything else that they can add to that?
It's interesting because when you look up clairsentience as well as clairempathy, because they're very closely related, you'll get different definitions from different sources.
Yeah.
And so it's not exactly the same all around. Now, the way that we teach it in our Reiki classes, when we're really helping people to understand their intuition, is we say clairempathy is clear emotional feeling, where you're picking up the emotions of other people. It's like you are a sponge, and if somebody comes close to you, you're going to feel their emotions just like they're your own, which gets really confusing because then it's hard to know what's yours and what's other people's. That's the biggest challenge with being empathic. And then we teach clairsentience is more clear physical feeling. So Jennifer's example was perfect for clairsentience. It's like she's physically feeling something in her body that's mirroring what somebody close by is also feeling. So she felt the heart flutter, even though it wasn't hers, as if it was happening in her own body. So And clairsentience also can happen when you go into a place. Like if you go into a place that's uncomfortable for whatever reason, your body might physically react. You might get an upset stomach, or you might suddenly feel anxiety. So it's like your body's having physical reactions with clairsentience to the environment, where we teach clairempathy is more the emotions.
Yeah.
And then as I was researching it and just reading up, another little tidbit that I came across that was interesting is that people that are clairsentient usually can have the ability to understand deeply why something is happening. Now, that's part of the gift that you almost have to develop, because a lot of times it's like you'll feel something and then you'll trigger something else. And then you dig in, well, why is this person feeling this way? Or why is this, what's the root cause? So it's like, if you really work it, you can combine that emotional aspect with understanding the root cause, with looking at the physical ramifications of that, and you can really see the deep picture of what's happening. And I found that fascinating, because sometimes I'll dig in, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, my stomach's upset, let's just fix it and move on.
Yeah.
That's been a huge challenge for me, is trying to figure out what's mine and what isn't.
Yeah.
Huge.
And that's ongoing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Think about how many times in our lives or people in our lives have felt this clairsentience ability, but never knew that it was never their own. I think about, well, you, Jennifer. I mean, we grew up together, or I grew up with you, however you want to look at that.
Yeah,
I feel like we're growing up together.
Yeah, for sure.
You used to complain all the time about feeling sick when you would enter into certain situations, when you would enter into certain environments, when you're around large crowds. I'm now thinking, well, holy shit, maybe it was just you picking up on the environment the entire time, or the people around you.
I was reading that this morning online. I'm like, holy shit. It wasn't me all these years. It was me picking up on everything. Like, remember, I just told you last year I went to a plant store because I really wanted plants, and I was so excited. And as soon as I got outside, and it was spring, so everyone was there, I was like, I couldn't even focus anymore. I couldn't concentrate. I had a list. I couldn't even follow my list. I actually left. I didn't get anything because there were so many people there, and I didn't understand it. Didn't make sense.
Rose, you were just telling me that you were reading a really interesting book about crowds, though. Do you want to share a little bit of that? Because I've just been thinking about that ever since you told me.
Yeah, I came across, I'll have to look up the name, but I'm reading the book that's called Comfort Crisis. And it's very scientifically based. It's lots of different studies about all kinds of different aspects of the human life and how our environment impacts us. And it's so funny. Like, as a sensitive person, every chapter I'm like, yes, I knew that was a problem. Yes, of course.
Validated.
That's bad for you.
Yeah.
It's like so validating about my entire life, that the things that we're sensitive to because our human bodies are not designed for these things. And the crowds was just one of those moments when I felt so, confirmed. So he talks about the fact that humans are not designed to be in large crowds. And there's all kinds of research that he's citing. And he says a normal number of people for humans to be in relationship with at any given time is about 150.
Number.
Well, that's a lot of people, but
That's
he's
a lot.
talking about like every day, 150 people.
Okay.
He mentions that 150 people is like the size of a small village or a small town. That should be the limit of the number of people that you come in contact all the time. During daily life, of course, you're just going to be surrounded with your most close family or friends that you're doing things with. But once you get above that 150 threshold, it's too overwhelming for the human brain. And we get overwhelmed and we shut down. Or we get anxiety and stress and discomfort because our brains can't handle that. It's just too much. And the other thing that I just read last night is he was talking about noise, the impact of noise.
Uh-huh.
And he cited the fact that, well, I don't know if I'm going to get this right or not, but it was like many people die of heart disease. Noise is one of the factors that increases your risk for heart disease.
What?
People that live in cities are more likely to have heart disease because of the noise and because of the crowds.
Because it's an overstimulate
Yes.
stimulation
Mhm.
of the nervous system.
Mhm.
And that puts
Exactly.
stress on the heart.
Puts stress on the heart. It also raises your cortisol levels.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got that negative hormone within you, and it's like a low grade,
Uh-huh.
just enough to be like a slow drip. Like every once in a while, you go outside into the busy street and all of a sudden the cortisol starts kicking in because you're
Uh-huh.
anxious and stressed. So it's like we are living in these environments that are not good for us. And that's why we've got trouble with anxiety and depression. He also talks about being in nature. I mean, every chapter is just all of these different aspects of our lives that we're not living in a way that our human bodies are designed to. And we're paying the price with our health. And he talks a lot about mental health as well. And how, living in big cities, people are more depressed than people that live in rural areas. I mean, it's
That's crazy.
fascinating.
I've always wanted to live in a big city just because everything was so close by.
Right.
But I'm
yeah.
thankful that I live in the country.
Yeah.
Very.
I tried living in a big city because, as a kid, you're like, oh, they do have everything. Like,
Yeah.
it's so exciting. And you're right. Like, it is so nice to have everything that you'd ever need right at your fingertips.
You could just walk
And
everywhere.
yeah, and all the food. And I mean,
Yes.
that part of it is phenomenal.
Mhm.
But like this second that I settled into my apartment, I was like, oh no, this was definitely a mistake. Like it just,
Really?
yeah, the overwhelm never shuts off. It never shuts off. You feel like, at least I felt like I was just constantly not just stimulated, but overstimulated and like energetically connected to about 150 people at once all the time,
Mhm.
if not more. Even when I
Oh,
was
to do
just
it.
in my apartment, I felt very surrounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get away.
How long did you end up staying there?
Not as long as I was supposed to. I ended up finishing my degree like super early because I couldn't take it anymore. Like I said, very early, I realized that like I could not really thrive in that environment. So I instantly started like piling on all the classes, taking everything at once so I could get the heck out of there.
So
And I did.
you dealt with stress by putting more stress on yourself.
Yeah, but like I realized that it also stressed me out to go out and do things. So I was like I just honestly like I'm not going to enjoy it here. Like I'll try my best, but I would really rather just, sit in a quiet space and study and, get done what I came here to do so I can leave.
Now, do you think that that's more geared towards people who are more sensitive or have heightened sensitivity to things like sound and people and whatever? Because I'm just thinking about my husband who says he feels no stress and no anxiety whatsoever when he's in crowded places or when he has to go into the city. And I will go into panic attacks when I have to go into the city. That's how much my body does not like it.
Yeah.
So do you think it's just an empath thing or a clairsentience thing? Or do you think that it's for everybody and just some people are a little bit more, can tolerate more or maybe numb to it?
Does the book talk about that at all, Rose?
No, it's a very scientific study-based book. So it doesn't really go into clairempathy or any of the intuitive senses, but
So they're saying that it's like
everybody.
person kind
Everybody.
of is sort of the same in this way.
Yeah. And this man traveled to the Arctic for a month to get away from everything. And he's just a
Delightful.
regular guy. And he goes through all of the changes that happen to him physically and emotionally and mentally, and realizes all kinds of things that he didn't know about himself because he'd never had the opportunity. So it's, you know, I think about my husband, and he definitely does better in large crowds, but he is, as he's opening up more, he's getting more and more sensitive to those things. He's shifting right now to where he's much more aware of how other people are influencing him. So, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, is I think, yes, some people are more sensitive than others. Absolutely. I mean, because we're all different and we're all unique. But I think all of us are built with the same machine, and some things just work and some things don't. And so it may be impacting us less, but maybe it still impacts us and we're just not aware of it because we've never known anything else.
Yeah, like were you born in a city and it is all you know?
Right.
Or like, do you have to be there? And so you really are just in this frame of mind of like acceptance, you know, like and coping the best you can. And maybe because you have to be there, it maybe is affecting you less because you maybe don't have a choice.
Yeah. Here's another study that I found fascinating that he talks about is they did a study between people in offices, people that work in their own office space with walls and doors versus people that work in open concept offices. And they studied with just regular folk, not necessarily sensitive people. And the study found that people that are working on their own with walls and doors are much less stressed than the people in open concept.
Really?
And people that have private spaces to work get more work done.
Yeah.
So it's like people, even just regular folk, are sensitive to the noise and the distraction of others around them. And even though they reported that they didn't feel stressed. So it was like the people in the open concept didn't think they were stressed, but when you looked at their productivity as well as their cortisol levels, they were experiencing more stress than the people working on their own.
Yeah.
So
I can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't have anyone talk to me, look at me, breathe near me when I'm trying to get work done. It's like, get away.
Me too. I was talking to Rose a while ago about like even reading in public. Like I can't hardly read in public because I feel too much and I get so distracted.
You know, that little exercise we did Saturday morning with the group that we did at Sanctuary, I could not focus whatsoever. At all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. My brain was just everywhere.
What Jennifer's referring to is Rose, Ashley, and myself held a class to help our Reiki students or anyone who was trained in Reiki to help develop their Reiki skills and have a little refresh. So we practiced some intuitive games in the beginning. And so Jennifer is referring to having to tune into her intuitive abilities and play these games with a crowd of people.
I just couldn't do it.
That's interesting. I bet there was probably a lot of our students who felt that way. I don't know that I would have been able to do it with a crowd.
And that's why I couldn't focus when I was actually giving Reiki. Ashley, you were with me when I was doing that, and I just could not focus. I knew I could feel certain things, but I couldn't focus. I couldn't figure out where, when, how.
You did so good though.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, you pinpointed a lot of things and
I did.
They were very validated.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry for my group of loud. We were having so much fun.
Yeah. Candace was over there laughing.
It was good energy you were putting in the room. So,
yeah. Well, everyone else was taking it so seriously. Like we were cracking jokes up the wazoo. We were having fun.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Has anyone, when they were younger, did they ever have someone say to them, "You are just too sensitive"?
Oh,
You are too sensitive.
yeah, you said that to me.
I did.
No. No, I don't think you did.
I was gonna say, I hope not, because my mother used to say that to me, and it's probably who said it to you, if
Well, I don't know
anything.
that grandma ever said it to me. I know friends have said it to me.
Mhm.
And I know it was insinuated without ever actually being said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm saying the reason why I bring that up is because it's something also I read is that that's what we hear a lot, us clairsentient people.
Mhm.
Oh man. I mean, it's overwhelming to feel everything all the time and
It is.
just physically in your body, not knowing where these aches and pains are coming from.
The
And then emotionally.
emotional stuff.
And
Yeah.
and yesterday I was scheduled to have an appointment, a Reiki appointment, and I was like so on edge and feeling scatterbrained and super anxious, which I woke up that way, which is unusual for me. Usually I'm pretty calm. And I got into my Reiki session and I realized I don't think that this is me. I was picking up on the energy of my client before I ever worked with my client. And then after the session, after we released a lot, I felt so much better. I was like, oh, there I am.
Yeah.
But I was irritable. I was really, because it's an uncomfortable feeling to have all of these like feelings inside my body and
with no
physically
rhyme nor or reason for
without
them.
knowing where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And even after doing this work, sometimes I still don't know that I'm
Mhm.
picking up on something
Yeah.
psychically.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. So I have a long way to go.
Something I felt like was so refreshing was someone very close to me went where was she? I think she was in London, and she was with a group of her girlfriends, and she has never, I don't think, understood this sort of like thing of feeling too sensitive or like picking up things from other people and it being overwhelming. And it's hard to relate to or understand unless you have experienced it. I understand why people think maybe we're just complaining or we're sounding like we're too
Mhm.
sensitive. I get it because you can't really understand it until you feel it. But this person was out with her friends and they went into this like little pub, and they were in the basement, and it was kind of like a small confined low ceiling room. There was a lot of people in it. They were like all singing and dancing and drinking, and there was loud music and like all of this stuff. And this person I know, she started like feeling really sick, and she like felt like she couldn't function. She was like, I don't know what's going on, like feeling all out of sorts, like getting really overwhelmed and like feeling like she wanted to throw up, and like but like also feeling like she couldn't like move her body and just like so confused. And she came home and she's like, I think I finally felt like what you feel like sometimes. And I was like, yep, that's how.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if you don't know yourself what is going on, like my daughter, she's 13 and she is clairsentient and has clairempathy, and she is also an emotional authority, which means that her emotions run on high all the time and are always on these waves.
Mhm.
It's hard as a parent or even as a friend of somebody with those abilities that are so heightened and so sensitive to handle it.
Mhm.
So I've been guilty of telling my daughter she's too sensitive, that she needs to grow thicker skin, because like I can't handle all of her emotions and everything that she's feeling, because I'm also clairsentient and clairempathetic. So I'm picking up what she's picking up, probably for me. It's just
Yeah.
and for everyone else around us. It's a lot. It's a lot for everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we were talking about not knowing when you're picking things up. And I lived like that for, most of my life. And it wasn't until I was alone, like on a regular basis for like the first time in my life, like spending a lot of time by myself, that I started to figure out like, wait a minute, when I'm alone, I feel very happy and fine. And then when
Mhm.
I'm not alone, I don't feel that way. What's happening here? And I started to like put the pieces together, and I was like, wait a minute. Don't think these things that I'm feeling are from me. And then, you put the pieces together. And at that point, I didn't even know that these were psychic things. But then, you hear the word and someone starts to describe it, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Is that who I am? Please let that be who I am, because it answers so many things about myself. And
Yeah.
and then, oh gosh, life just changes so much.
I believe clairempathy and clairsentience are superpowers, though.
Oh, yeah.
And as difficult as they are, and this is just my own thoughts and beliefs, it's like once you learn how to manage your energies and how to clear things that don't belong to you, and you get to a place where you're feeling, just like you said, Ashley, happy and good most of the time, I feel like we radiate that energy and we can influence those around us in a positive way. I feel like it's not just a one-way street.
Mm-mm.
And this is just my theory, but I feel like once people that have these sensitive gifts figure out how to be strong in who they are, then we can be a beacon of positive energy that others can absorb, and it can help them.
I was just telling you this the other day that there's a certain somebody in my life who I will practice when I'm around this person, just being high vibrational and like in being in oneness with everything. And I get that glowing feeling and just sensation about me when I'm doing this. And I'm hoping that feeling this way, this person will absorb that too in one way or another.
To Rose's point, 100%. I also agree with that belief. Through my studies with human design, the generator type is the type that when generating that good, positive energy, it overflows from your aura and does touch everyone else around you and influences the way other people feel. Sorry, it influences the way other people feel. So it is a two-way street. It's not always about picking up the negative stuff. It's also about sharing the positive stuff. But I think to note with that is that we cannot always control our environment or the people around us and how they feel to help us feel better. Sometimes we just have to accept and acknowledge that this is how somebody's feeling and you're picking that up. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to help them if they didn't ask for your help. You don't have to change it. I think it's just a really good source of wisdom that we have to give empathy to other people and compassion and better understanding for our relationships and the people that we surround ourselves with.
That's a really good point. That's a trap that a lot of empaths fall into, is they want to fix and save everybody around them.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, if they're uncomfortable, then we're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I used to do that like all the time. People pleasing is just a huge thing of wanting to make everybody happy so that everybody is calm and happy, and then I can be calm and happy. And you're right. That's not correct.
So I guess clairsentience goes beyond just feeling other people and their emotions and pain, but it's also like objects, like buildings or places. You can still get that energy from them. I thought that was kind of fascinating too.
Why don't you share a little bit about what you mean or an example?
So we went to this house clearing and I was fine, walked into the house, I was fine. And then I walked upstairs and the room, I could just feel something just didn't feel right. And it was coming from the whole room upstairs. And my whole body just started, like my palms were sweating. My gut didn't feel well. I just didn't feel good in there. And as soon as I left that room, I was fine. So definitely energy in that room.
Yeah. So picking up on a residual energy left over. You ever go to like a place where a tragedy happened and you feel the emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to the site of the 9/11 attacks in New York, the Twin Towers, I know that my daughter-in-law went and she said she just felt it and she started crying. My son Joey went there and he's like, yeah, I didn't feel anything. So some people are just closed off to that.
Mhm.
That could be because there's too many people there too, because I know if I go to places and there's so many people, I'm like, I don't pick up
Yeah.
much
Mhm.
at all, if anything, because I'm too overstimulated to tune
Mhm.
into the fine detail. Did you guys ever hear from people when you were trying to explain that you were an empath? Um, did you ever hear from people like, well, no, I feel that way too? And they would try to almost, um,
Rationalize it for you.
Mm.
yeah, maybe rationalize it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I remember getting so frustrated, um, and trying to like point out the differences and still get met with, no, Ashley, like most people feel those things. And I think what's important with clear empathy or being an empath in general is to point out that it's a spectrum, and most people are empathetic. So not everyone is um, an empath, and not everyone has the psychic skill attached to being an empath. But yeah, most people are empathetic because that's part of human nature. That is part of our survival and our coexistence and how we build community. But the difference between being empathetic and being an empath, or having that psychic sense, is that you are feeling things as your own, and there's no division, there's no separation. Um, are there any other differences that you guys can think of between the two?
Between what? Clairempathy and clairsentience?
No,
Or between
between being empathetic and being an empath. For example, this weekend, we were talking to Kristen, our friend, and we were talking about the housewives. And one of the housewives was meeting with a therapist, and the therapist told the girl, Erica, she's like, you need to learn to be more empathetic. And the housewife was like, well, what's that? And the therapist said, you need to learn how to put yourself in other people's shoes and see things from their perspective, and to maybe understand or feel how they might be feeling. And she was like, oh, yeah, I don't do that. She's like, how do you do that? So again, it's a spectrum. It's maybe you're not empathetic at all. Maybe you're empathetic, but maybe you're also an empath, and there's a difference between all of them.
So what you're saying is that it can be a learned quality. It can
No,
be
I mean,
something that
I don't think it can be a learned quality. I think it can be a quality that you always had that now you're ready to express. But I think that some people are just empathetic and some people are empaths.
I
And it's
wonder,
a blurry line, but
well, when we've talked about clairempathy before, and I don't know if we ever mentioned this, but trauma can activate somebody's clairempathy, or having always to
Mhm.
be on high alert, and be aware of what your environment is or what the moods of other people are, so that you can be ready to either soothe the situation or leave the
Or run.
situation. Right. And I wonder if we're comparing that to clairsentience, which is, just another aspect of that clairempathy. It's just being able to feel that in a physical way. If that is also something that is triggered or activated through traumas of the same. I don't have an answer for that, just making an
yeah, I don't know.
observation.
We don't
No,
have
I
the
think
same
that's an
for that.
interesting distinction. And I think it's important to understand so that if somebody is clairempathic or clairsentient or both, that they understand that not everybody in the world perceives the world in the same way.
Yeah.
And it's not a black or a white. There's a lot of shades of gray in between. And just like anything, everybody's going to be stronger or not as strong in different areas.
Yeah.
So, and I know I used to have a lot of anger at other people because they just kept getting up in my space and making me feel crappy. And so
Like, deal with your stuff so I don't feel so bad.
Yes, exactly. And it's interesting, and it's taken me a long time to get to the place where I don't hate people because they make me uncomfortable, to where I can know that, okay, they are where they are and they have a right to their feelings. It isn't their job to be happy all the time so that I'm comfortable. So yeah, I think that is a good understanding to have, that everybody's in a different place, and that some people may be very sensitive and may have just walled all that off due to overwhelm. And I've played that game too. So I totally understand that. So yeah, really acceptance for people of where they're at, and knowing that everybody is experiencing the world in their own unique way.
Yeah. And even if someone can put themselves in your shoes and understand what you're going through, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're an empath and that they can feel how you feel as their own. And so, too, like not getting angry at people for not being able to read your mind, even though they're empathetic, they're not an empath.
Yeah.
And even as an empath, you can't read everyone's mind.
Right. You can't.
It's just not possible.
No.
We still have to talk about our feelings.
Yeah.
And
It's
be
like,
open and honest.
it's the truth though. I mean, I can sense when people walk in and there's just not something right in their mood. You can feel it.
Yeah.
But they may not want to talk about it at that
See,
time.
they don't want to talk about
And
it.
maybe they aren't ready to process it yet.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
probably what it is. They're
you
not
have to
ready to
almost
process it.
allow
But I'm
them the
picking
space
up
to-
on it and I
I
want to
know.
know. I want to know now.
Oh gosh, my husband hates that too. Because I'm like, I know you're irritated. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. I want to solve the problem right now. And
and he probably just needs to process that before he can communicate. And I'm not patient. I want to know now.
there are people too who are really good at being empathic in their relationships, but don't necessarily have that same skill outside of their like intimate relationships, because you do grow. I mean, it is an intuitive skill, but it's also, I do think it can be learned in certain situations. Like you just get to know the energy of that person and how they're going to respond and react to things. And your energy or your intuition can almost predict what's coming up before maybe that person really knows.
When we're teaching Reiki, a lot of times, we are going over the intuitive gifts, and because we do work with a lot of empaths, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're 99.9% likely to be an empath. We always say, like, we're talking about using this as your superpower, and Clairempathy is kind of like the default. So, if you're picking things up with your other intuitive senses, maybe you're psychically smelling something or clairvoyantly seeing something, and it's got no meaning to you, that's where we fall back to clairempathy. And we ask, how do I feel about what I'm picking up? Because we feel so much. It's always there. We're always feeling. And so we forget that that is a superpower, and it can help us decipher the other psychic skills that we're using,
Yeah. Clairsentience is hard, I think, to not describe, because it's you feeling physically in your body somebody else's pains, but I don't know what else to do with it from there unless I'm doing a healing. When I step into somebody's energy to do Reiki, or when I'm doing mediumship, I can feel physically in my body how the soul passed away, because I can feel that. And that's helpful to identify who I'm speaking with. But outside of that, outside of healing work, where I have a goal to help them heal and release that thing, I don't know what to do with it. And I don't always notice my clairsentience,
Mm.
It's so visceral and it's so physical in my body. I will often mistake it for my own and then be really confused.
That's why mediums are so good at what they do, is because they are very strongly clairsentient. They can feel.
I think of, for me, the difference between clairempathy and clairsentience is clairsentience for me is not an emotion. It's like my liver hurts. Oh, my
Yeah.
back hurts. I can't walk. So am I usually getting emotions attached? Yes, but it's more than just that. So this is where I think a lot of somatic work comes into play, and moving stuck energy through the body, because clairsentience to me is very physical. And so I think a lot of times we need to physically address what's going on. And so maybe that's through movement, maybe that's through diet, maybe that's through exercise. So yeah, they go hand in hand, but sometimes they don't.
Yeah, when I do mediumship work, when I'm feeling that clairsentience of feeling how somebody passed, feeling something in my heart or my stomach or my head, I never have an emotion attached with it. I am so lost in the feelings and sensations of my own physical body. I just speak it, and I need the person to explain to me exactly what it is that I'm feeling, because they can relate to it or they can understand it because they know the person that passed. But
I think
there's no feeling.
Sorry. I think knowing this now, I'm a little excited, is going to help me figure out what's mine and what's not, because that totally makes sense. When we were in the car and you got nervous, I wasn't feeling nervous, but I had the sensations of the sweaty palms, the upset stomach. I didn't feel nervous. And she asked me, "Are you nervous?" I looked at her. I'm like, "Oh," and she's like, "That's me. I'm sorry. It's me." I had no idea. So now I can really figure that out. I'm glad we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll help.
Yeah.
No emotion, just feeling. That's good.
Yeah.
Stop.
I used to go to doctors sometimes as a kid because my
These
knees
phantom
would hurt,
pains.
or my elbow would hurt, and they'd be like, "There's nothing wrong with you," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I knew that. I know."
That makes so much sense to me too. I've been to so many doctors and they're like, "Nothing's wrong with you."
Oh.
Could we also hang on to the energy of those physical pains we feel from other people as our own and carry them with
Yeah.
us, and then they can cause and
Totally.
wreak havoc on our
Mm-hmm.
own energy systems and our own organs?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, wasn't it you who was talking about, gosh, maybe it wasn't you, Tyler Henry, and how he actually, do you know what I'm talking about?
It was you who told me
No
about his
way.
lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I told you that?
you told me that.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
so what was it?
Well, Tyler Henry, the medium, he I don't really remember the story for being the person who told it, but something about through his mediumship work, he uses a lot of clairsentience as well. And he must have been working with someone who had lung issues. And after the session, he actually eventually went to the hospital for a collapsed lung. Yeah. And, I don't want to instill fear in anyone, but I do think it's an interesting thing.
Is this why I saw you clearing your throat chakra after you and I were working together?
Yeah, because that hurt so bad, so bad. I could feel all of it, and the largeness of it, and how it encompasses so
Yep.
much of your neck. And
Yeah.
that was actually a pretty hard one to shake. I went home and took a nap.
Yeah. That was hard. I saw you do that. I'm like, oh no.
But it's just it happens. And I mean, we do our best to clear it. And listen, if anybody knows any good tips for like total and absolute clearing of all like absorbed energy, I am all ears. Let us know, because we do the best we can and we have a lot of methods for doing it. But even still, it can be really hard to detach from some of those things.
Mhm.
And the ones that also leave like an imprint on your mind, where you're like, oh, that hurt like me emotionally to feel that from you. Those are hard to get rid of. And the ones that you keep playing over and over and over again. I've had those too.
Yeah. And you like cut the cord and then you cut the cord again and cut the cord, and you think to yourself, it's not mine to carry, but
Yeah.
it just kind of the nature of what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. I had someone tell me once to use the phrase through me, not from me, through me, not from me, as if the energy could pass through me and not attach to me or not take from me.
I like that.
Yeah. I've only tried it a couple times. I can't give you any statistics on how it's helped yet.
I was on a commercial airplane once, on a long flight. It was, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. And I like flying, and the person next to me did not like flying, which I wasn't aware of. And so we're getting ready to take off, and all of a sudden I'm feeling all these knots in my stomach, and I'm getting like the anxiety, the sweaty palms, the nervous breathing. And I knew immediately it wasn't mine. And so I just looked next to me. He was sitting to my right, and I'm like, oh, it's him. But like, here I am stuck right next to him for the next 3 to 4 hours. And and I could just feel him suffering. So, what do you do with that? And so I talked to my spirit guides. I'm like, okay, guys, I do not want to feel this for the next 4 hours. So what do I do? And so I ended up asking his higher self permission to send a little Reiki, and I did. And then I put a bubble around myself so that I didn't have to feel what he was feeling. So it's like I helped as much as I could, and then I put a shield around myself. And he actually started drinking alcohol. So after about 2 drinks, he was feeling much better.
It's nice and numb.
I know, which I'm not recommending, but that's just what happened. But yeah, it's like, it is hard to stop that and completely clear that. So I totally agree with that.
I actually had this exact same experience with a young female in an airplane flight next to me. And I'm not shy. So I was like, how are you feeling? Are you doing okay? I made her talk about it. And then walked her through some breathing exercises.
I love it. Oh
she was so thankful though.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah. I will always put my head down and not look at anybody as they pass by me to sit down on the plane, because if I make eye contact, I will latch into their energy, and then I will be just not okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Mm.
I wonder.
I find myself doing that a lot too, but I never really put the 2 and 2 together. I do it a lot when I'm in public.
Yep. Or I'll put a hat on. Hold that hat down real far. So it's like I can't see you and I can't feel you. And
I do that too.
It's kind of sad that we have to feel like we have to guard ourselves to protect ourselves all the time. I wish we could get to the place where like we can let those things come and go and pass and they don't affect us so intensely.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever will. I don't know if we're ever meant to, but
yeah, I think like it's just a part of human nature, because like sometimes I'm just tired. Sometimes I haven't eaten. Like I can't be doing all the things all the time to keep myself like in a state to where I can confront all those energies. It's just not possible. If I could, I could probably take the world head on every single moment, but like I can't live like that. I get tired. I have bad sleeps,
Okay, so if you ever wondered if you were clairsentient, there's a cute little exercise you can do to figure it out. And what it is you close your eyes and you think of the word calm, and think about where you feel that in your body and what color it is. And then when you're done with that and you could feel it in your body and you could see the color, then think of another word like happy. Where do you feel that in your body? What color is it? And if you could feel those things, see those things, you're a clairsentient. You got the gift.
Nice.
Just a cute little exercise to do.
Yeah. I think what's important to take away from this is that we all have different levels and degrees of clairempathy and clairsentience. And it's really important for us to start to bring awareness to our own bodies and use that wisdom of our bodies to give more compassion or to be compassionate towards other people. And, it really is. Our bodies are tools for gaining wisdom and knowledge about our environment and about the people around us. And it makes us more empathetic, more compassionate people. It helps us grow in our relationships. And I don't think it's something that should be feared. I know there's a lot of cons that come with having these sensitivities, but there's a lot of pros. And it's important to make sure that you are separating your energies from other people, taking that time to do your self-care techniques and cleanse your energy so that you aren't always feeling overwhelmed and feeling like you have to take on the world's and everyone else's emotions and feelings and pains at all hours of the day. You also have to give back to yourself. And when those moments come, then you feel that strength that you can help if you're called to help, or, at least gain that knowledge of what's going on and understanding of the people around you. These gifts are not meant just for healers, but they can make you incredible healers if that is a call that you feel, if that is something you feel called to do. So doing things like learning hands-on healing or Reiki or any other kind of healing method can be really important to help you, one, learn how to use that gift to heal others, to heal yourself, and then also to learn how to separate and cleanse the energy so that you're protecting yourself as well. Because it's always a balance between helping and taking care of yourself. We can't do it all the time. We have to find that balance between the both.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation about clairempathy and clairsentience. I hope it brought you peace of mind or greater understanding of the topic. And now we're going to transition into our mystic moments. I hope you'll stay tuned. Welcome, everybody, to Mystic Moments. Today, we are reading an aura of our friend Amanda. And Amanda sent us a lot of photos, and I took a look at her current selfie and also some photos of her as a kiddo. And so let's first talk about the energy of her current photo. Now, I know Amanda knows quite a bit about auras, so I'm not going to go into super great detail about the meanings of her colors because I know she'll know what they mean, but we're going to go into some interesting things. So, Amanda, what I see around your current selfie is a vibrant, like sunflower or daffodil yellow. It's so bold and such a rich color. And then that yellow melts into a tiny bit of like deep indigo. And it's there for a split second before it expands out and melts into like a very light blue. Now, I will say that you as a kid had these same colors. So I always say that that's a great sign that you carried that childhood energy into adulthood. Except when you were a kid, it's so interesting. This is something that I've only very rarely seen. You had this very soft, this soft sort of light pink and purple energy that kind of floated off to the side of you. And it's not there, it wasn't there all of the time. And so that energy told me that it was connected to what we would have called as a kid our imagination. Today, we would call it more of our intuition. And what's interesting is that energy, as it was a part of you, but it also was not a part of you. It had sort of its own consciousness. So that energy also represented some sort of guide or guardian that you had as a kid for that time in your life. So you don't see it around you now, but that's because, we work with guides at different points of our lives for different reasons. So it's not a bad thing that I don't see it around you. Though I think you'll probably be like, I want that pink purple energy back. It's not something that I feel like you have to try and get back. Okay. All right. And then what I think is so interesting is I had an oracle card deck laying in front of me as I was looking at your aura. And I don't normally pull oracle in tandem with aura readings, but that deck just kept calling out to me. And I was like, okay, I'll pull one card. And I got this card of freedom. And in this card, there's a beautiful bird flying. And I want to read you the little clip of what the book has to say, because I just think it's so spot on with your aura colors. And it really just made my jaw drop. Okay, so the bird in this card is a swallow, a cliff swallow. And like I said, this card is labeled as the card of freedom. And so this card says, in poor light, a cliff swallow looks brownish gray. However, in good lighting, it is a luminous metallic dark blue. The cliff swallow traditionally makes nests on vertical cliffs, carefully crafting them out of mud. Although they can nest solitarily, they usually nest in colonies. When one finds a cloud of insects, it alerts the other members of the flock so that all can be nourished. Even though they fly free, their community supports them. So it's that healthy balance between having a community and providing for others, but also having your independence. And as you know, that so greatly describes how an indigo needs to nurture themselves. And what I love most is that it talks about how when this bird is in good lighting and it feels, like it has that spark or that it's being lit up, that it shows that dark blue color. So it's like, for you, your yellow energy is so strong, and it definitely is the energy that you use most out in the world. But when you're feeling safe, your indigo can really shine, and a different aspect of yourself can be seen. And that's okay. It's a good thing. And so maybe as you move forward, allowing that indigo side of you to be seen more in a public setting, because there's something about that indigo that's magic for you right now and could lead to you feeling a stronger sense of freedom. So that's what I get from your aura, and I hope it's helpful. But what did you guys get?
Not that.
Not
No.
I think the three of us all did see the purple pink in that small photo.
Oh, really?
Bro,
Aw.
so brief. It was like, boo, goodbye.
Yes.
It came in like a flash. I almost missed it. And then in her selfie, I could see a golden white light which I always immediately dismiss because I see that around everyone right before I see their true colors. So I never pay attention to it.
Mhm.
And then in came blue and green, but it was very much mixed together that it almost came in as like aquamarine color that was a little muddled.
I saw the aquamarine color too.
It wasn't bright and like airy. It did have some denseness to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw mostly the white because that's really where I'm at for seeing auras is I can always get the white going pretty easily. I saw a flash of blue, a flash of green, and later on a flash of pink. But like not enough to interpret anything, just enough to be like, and it was almost like, did I really see that? Or was that just me wanting to see it? You know?
Oh my gosh, there's a little bird right outside my window. It looks just like the bird on the card I saw. Anyway. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed our episode. As always, if you want to work with us one-on-one, there's information below. If you would like to join our social media community, we would love to have you there. There's also information about that below. But until next week, I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.